So for those of you who don't normally come to Christ Church, we are in the process of thinking through our vision for the church, about what we think our church should be like, what we think God is calling us to be like as a church. And this is the last week. It feels like it's been a long sermon series, doesn't it? It feels like it's gone on a little while, but it's only been 6 weeks. We had a break in the middle, and it feels a little bit longer because of that. And so we're on the last bit. And like last week I said, I hope you felt challenged, perhaps even overwhelmed by the enormity of the task that's ahead of us. And some people nodded at that point and said, yeah, and today is no different. I actually think today, the thing that we look at in the vision is the most challenging for us. It's the thing that is going to be a constant challenge, and it's a constant challenge for every single church. And today we're thinking about what it means to be relevant. Every few years or so, the church, the Christian church, somewhere in this country, likes to do questionnaires. And they go out into a town or a city and they start asking people what they think of Jesus. And some people did that in Liverpool recently on behalf of the Diocese of Liverpool. And pretty much every questionnaire has the same result. People get asked about Jesus and they get asked, what do you think of Jesus? And the answer is usually the same. Even if they don't go to church, they'll say, well, actually, he seemed like a good guy. His teaching was good. His life seemed good. He seemed all right. I like Jesus. And then they're asked about the church. And that's a completely different story. So people see church as kind of way, way down below Jesus. They see Jesus as in some way relevant because they can learn from his teaching, but they see church as completely irrelevant. And that's a task for us as a church to kind of counter that, because most people hardly ever go to church. So their view of church is simply skewed by what we see on TV. When I encourage people who I'm talking to about faith to think about coming to church, they'll always say, I've never ever been. They may have been for a baptism, or a wedding, or a funeral, but that's not the same as kind of going regularly to church and being part of a church body. But those who do start to explore what it means to be part of a church suddenly discover that church isn't irrelevant. The church actually, in some way, contributes something to their life. As Rachel has found out, that being part of the body here has actually contributed something to her life that is enabling her to live life in a different way. And for the task of the church, we need to make sure that we are seen as relevant. What do we mean by that? Well, simply relevance means recognizing that something can have importance in your life, has meaning for your life. That's all relevance means. You know, just something that has meaning or importance for your life. And as we think about our vision at Christ Church, it is actually a huge task to start to counter the perceptions people have of church. In fact, quite a lot of people in Southport don't even know Christ Church exists. Even though we are right smack in the centre of Lord Street, I will talk to people, I'll say, yeah, I'm the vicar of Christ Church. And they'll say, where's that? And I'll say, it's on Lord Street. And they'll say, oh, is that the one by Sainsbury's? And that's called St. George's. I said, no, it's not that one, it's the other one. Oh, is that one at the end of Lord Street? No, that's the URC church. I mean, the one right in the centre is the one. Because you can't see it because it's covered in trees. Unless you come here, you probably don't even know it exists. It is really easy for church to be irrelevant. It's really easy for a church to be so consumed with itself that it has no impact on the community in which it's placed. And all we're saying is that at Christ Church, we want to be the kind of church that makes a difference in the town, that becomes relevant, because we are speaking into the needs and concerns, the ambitions and the desires of the people of this town. That's what relevance would mean for us. In our reading, Paul is talking about his desire to share Jesus. His desire took him all around the Middle East, all around Europe, going from town to city, sharing the good news of Jesus. even at great expense, even almost at the cost of his life. In fact, it was at the cost of his life right at the end. He endured all sorts of things just to share this incredible news of Jesus, that God came to earth, lived amongst us, showed us what it was like to live a perfect life, and then died for us, but didn't stay dead. 3 days later, rose again from the grave. And that story so empowered Paul that he couldn't stop preaching the gospel. And there are things that we can learn from Paul, and one of the things that we can learn is what he said today. And it can be summed up in this, that he became all things to all people in order to win some. To the Jews he became a Jew. To those who lived under the law, he said, he became like one who lived under the law. That was the Jewish law, not the national civil law, because obviously he lived under civil law. To those who were Gentiles, he lived like a Gentile. To those who were weak, he became weak. In other words, he put himself in other people's shoes. He tried to understand what their concerns were, their needs were, and shared the gospel into those needs. And for those of you who are Christians, I would encourage you to go to Acts chapter 17 and read the story of Paul preaching in Antioch. Because there, he just wandered the city and he said, you Antiochians, you believe in this. And he preached from that place. He understood what it was to be in their shoes and to live life in their shoes. And because of that, he was able to share the gospel, to share the news. Hudson Taylor was an incredible missionary in China. He lived in the very late 1800s, early 1900s. And at that point, China had no Christian church at all. And lots of Christians went to be missionaries to China without any success. And Hudson Taylor was one of them. Hudson Taylor turned up on the shores of China, started to travel from town to town, preaching the gospel without any success. In fact, he was known by Chinese people as the Black Devil, which isn't a great nickname if you're a Christian preacher. He was known as the Black Devil because he wore a great big black overcoat. And of course, Chinese people didn't wear that. Fortunately, Hudson Taylor was so passionate about the gospel, he decided to try all things. And so he started to dress like a Chinese person, eat like a Chinese person, live like a Chinese person. And all of a sudden, everything changed. The way he preached the gospel changed. The way he connected with people changed. And he started a missionary organisation that led to the conversion of 18,000 people, built 125 schools, and sent 800 missionaries out into China. All because he started to put himself in the shoes of those he was trying to reach. It's a powerful story for us all. All too often, Christians, I think, Christians are terrible at this. They like to see themselves as superior to other people. And we're not. We're just simple people who've discovered the incredible love of God. We're just ordinary people who have discovered the extraordinary power of Jesus. That's all we are. And we need to remember that. We need to put ourselves into the shoes of the people around us. In other words, we need to connect with the people and discover what's going on in their lives. Let me invite Jenny. Jenny Fairweather is going to just come and tell us something of what she's been up to. And Jenny's very shy woman, and this is a big thing for her. But Jenny, over the last year, has kind of dripped to me little bits of what she's doing in her street. And I think it's a great example of what it means to be relevant. Do you want to tell them, Jenny?
Yes, I will. 20 minutes, okay?
20 minutes.
Well, it's really difficult to condense all that's been happening, but I'll try and do that. When we moved house, a couple of years after we moved house, I realised I didn't know who actually lived down our road and who was just passing through. And I didn't really like that. I didn't know who my neighbours and get to know their neighbours. It was an excuse for a get-together. I thought this was brilliant, and I went and knocked on every door down our street to invite people to a party. But I hadn't met most of them before, so it was a bit hard going. Some of them just thought I was weird. Some said no. One person said if his neighbour wasn't invited, he wouldn't go. No, if his neighbour was invited, he wouldn't go, sorry. But never mind, he turned up anyway. Over half said yes, and they were really excited about it. We've done it every year since, and more residents have joined in year after year. Even those who don't come to the street party have generally been more chatty as you see them down the road. And next year is our 10th anniversary, so we're going big next year. It was a great way to get to know the faces of people who live down our road, but it takes a long time to build friendships if you only see people once a year. At the street party last year, I got the feeling that some people would like to meet up more than once a year. So this time I sent out written invitations to invite some to a book club. I emphasised you didn't need to be an avid reader, and it was just an excuse for another get-together. And now seven people meet every month, and we meet and sometimes we discuss the book a little bit. But we're putting down roots of friendship, and it's growing. Off the back of that, we started up a book club WhatsApp group, which is very technical for me, and we use it now to talk about other things, not just books. We talk about stuff that's going on or things that people don't need anymore. Can anybody use it? And it's also developed into an informal neighbourhood watch. And it's just been another way to build friendship and connections with people on the street. It is, of course, being intentionally missional, but I'm just passionate about building community and don't use fancy words. As Steve said in the past, it's about doing stuff you're interested in, being salt and light in that situation. It does require a step of faith and doing something risky and perhaps feeling a bit stupid and foolish. But if I hadn't started the ball rolling, my neighbours might not have met each other, and I wouldn't have made the friendships that I have now. I'm sure that the street party and the book club were God's idea, and I believe he's going to continue the work he started down our street. From the WhatsApp group, I'd just like to read some quotes. That apart from the WhatsApp comments about when to put the wheelie bin out, and I've seen a fox and a sparrow walk, I'll read you some different ones. The first one. I was thinking how well this year was going. I have struggled to relax for years since having the kids. I work full-time and my husband works away. He's always saying I need me time. That has changed this year, and that's down to you, so I just wanted to say thanks. That was accompanied by a bunch of flowers and totally overwhelming. You've created a web of communication. Today we've switched to neighbourhood watch mode. We certainly feel less nervous about going away. It's a community within a community. WhatsApp has stepped us up a gear. It's the joining of the physical proximity as neighbours with the convenience of social media that makes it feel like a community. A community even when we're away on holiday. And the last one's lovely. My husband just said, could we have moved to a better place?
Thank you, Jen. See, what I like about that is that it's not some kind of big fancy idea, a very simple idea, but in that idea, what Jenny has done is become relevant. Do you think her street would miss her if she disappeared? Of course you would. That's the key to relevance, that people miss it when it's not there. Because it's relevant. And in those simple ideas, Jenny has done something that has provided a place where people can have community and friendship, and in that she is showing and declaring the love of God. And that's all relevance is. We can sometimes think of relevance as having great sounds and great music and lights and all those kind of things, and sometimes that is important. But in the end, it is about how we connect with people's needs. And beyond these four walls and within these four walls, people are always searching for something. People are always in search of something. Every generation has this kind of overwhelming search. Back in the 60s and 70s, which some of you can remember, people travelled the world to find themselves. No one ever uses that phrase now. Why? Because it's not important to the subsequent generations. In generations after that, people started to look for connection. That's why things like social media took off rapidly. That's why things like street gangs across all our cities are so predominant. Because people are looking for ways to connect. And that's why in this current youngest generation that's growing up right now, people are saying the thing they're looking for isn't to find themselves, it's not looking for connection, they are looking for a cause. They are looking for a purpose. And every generation is searching for something. Every person in this town is trying to find something to fill the emptiness of their lives. And the problem is, we have the answer to that. The answer is the love of God. The answer is Jesus. Jesus is always relevant. Whatever it is you are going through in your life, whatever it is you struggle with, Jesus has the answer for you. Because when you meet the incredible love and power of Jesus, everything else pales to insignificance. Whatever it is you have in your life right now that you are struggling with, Jesus will provide the answer. And that goes for everyone. Jesus is always relevant. And we need to hold on to that truth. And if you're here today without knowing Jesus and the power of his love, then you could discover something that is entirely relevant for your life today. The problem is the church. It's never Jesus. Jesus is the problem. The problem is the church. We're not always passionate about sharing Jesus. We don't always think people need Jesus. And we're absolutely terrible at PR, aren't we? You know, all the people outside the churches hear about is the infighting within churches, the doctrinal debates, the things that happen at big meetings, the failure of church leaders to live a life of integrity. And that's been big in the news this week. They don't see that people don't see week in and week out ordinary Christians living their lives for Jesus, showing love and truth like Jenny does. People don't see that. They'll only see it if we are properly engaged with our community. That's why week in and week out I've come up with one thing to say to you. Get involved in this town. Just get involved. Let people see what people who follow Jesus are really like. Because most of you are lovely. I'm not going to look at any other people there. Rob. Anyway. Amen. Unless you connect, you'll never be able to show people just how great Jesus is. And that's our job as Christians, to point people to Jesus. And relevance is simply about you putting yourself in a place where you can hear the concerns and the worries and the joys of other people. And let them see what Jesus would do with all of that. Yeah, I became a Christian when I was 21 years old. That is a long time. When I became a Christian, I was at a low point in my life. I'd just come out of a long-term failed relationship. I just failed uni. In fact, I had failed uni first year. I'd left. It had been a complete disaster. I'd been on a dole for 18 months. I had no future. And at 21 years old, I was feeling like, is this it? Is this my life? Is this what my life will be like now for the next 70 years? Because at that point, someone started to tell me about Jesus. And I saw his love in her. I saw his power at work in her when she got dramatically healed. And my life has never been the same since. I know Jesus is relevant. That's my experience. What I expected was church to be absolutely dull. And it blew me away when I discovered that actually church can be the most amazing thing in the world. I'm a vicar because I passionately believe in church, not just Jesus. See, when you get a group of people who all believe in Jesus, who come together and they're all different, and they're all from different backgrounds, and they're all different colours, and they all love Jesus in the same way, and learn to love each other, it is the most powerful, amazing, and beautiful thing you'll ever see here on earth. That's what church should be like. We need to show church in a new way. Last night I was listening to the Archbishop of Canterbury, just a noble talk, and he said this. He said, in order to transform society, we need to reimagine church. See, we can't go around and say, no, society needs to change, but we don't. That doesn't work. We need to reimagine what church can be like. That's what this vision's about. Reimagining what church can be like. Reimagining a church that truly reaches out to the most needy in this town. To be a church in which we are learning to love one another and helping each other to grow in our faith and to become like Jesus in our character and in the way we do things. To become a church in which the power of God is displayed all the time. And a church that people outside the church say, actually, if they disappeared, we'd miss them. That's what it means to be relevant. And that's the kind of church we need to be. And that's the journey that we're on, to become that kind of church. And so as we kind of end this service, I want to encourage you as people of Christ Church to commit yourself to this next month to pray. Because that big task that we've set ourselves on what this church could become like, it starts with God. It starts with prayer. And so please pray every day for us. Come and join us at the corporate prayer times on Wednesday and Friday. Make sure you engage in prayer for us. Because we need all the help we can get. And if you're not a member of Christ Church and you're here today, and you live in this area, we would love you to be part of this journey with us. We would love you to discover just how much God loves you. And just how relevant He is to your life. And to help us become the kind of church that could be relevant to you. That's the journey that we're on. And if you want to know more about what it means to become a Christian, just have a chat with me before you leave here today. I love having that kind of conversation. So come and have a chat. I'm going to pray. So, would the band like to come up? Do you want me to finish? Sorry, I'm just asking the boss. Would you like to stand, please? And during the song, at the end of the service, there'll be people at the side over here who would love to pray with you if you've got any concerns at all, if you've got any needs, whether that's a need for healing, or there's stuff going on in your life where you just need God to be at work. Could I encourage you to make the most of that and to use those people to just pray for you? They're not special people, all right? Well, they are special because they're with us. But you know what I mean? They're ordinary people. But we have an extraordinary God. And that's who we rely on. So I'm just going to pray. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for your presence here today. I want to thank you, Lord, for all your goodness to us. I want to thank you, Lord, that you truly are a good, good Father to each and every one of us. Lord, help us as a church to demonstrate your goodness, to demonstrate your love, to demonstrate your power. Help us to be the kind of church that others would see as relevant to them. And Lord, I pray that as we start this journey together, that you would equip us, empower us, and lead us every step of the way. In Jesus' name. Amen.